It's going to walk you through a kind of completed uh, model so that you can see a little bit what that's going to look like. You will have the dimensions, the drawing, so it'll show you kind of what this size is. The only thing that's not included on this model is a pen holder. You're going to complete that on your own, so you're going to design a pen holder that will fit in this 1/4 inch hole. But let me show you real quickly what my parameters are. So I have some stock thickness. This one is critical, so you need 5/8 of an inch stock thickness. Our width is 7 inches and our length is 12 inches. So when we're looking at that, that is our 7 across. You're going to rip cut it down to that, and then 12 inches long. And then we use the thickness planer to bring it down to 5/8 of an inch. The other parameters that I have in here, I have the diameter. So it's a 5-inch diameter. And then I have the whiteboard thickness, which is about 1/4 of an inch. And then the clock face thickness, which is 1/8 of an inch. Those are going to be important as we start to bring in our values here. So this part is going to be provided, that clock face, but this is a 5-inch diameter, and then it's recessed, so it's extruded down by 1/8 of an inch. This is a 5x2 rectangle that's brought down 1/4 of an inch, that whiteboard thickness. So that model is relatively easy to set up, and it has the dimensions for you. What we're going to do now is go to our actual toolpath creation. So from design, I go to manufacture. And so for manufacture, it's going to work a little bit differently. You're going to define what are called toolpaths. So your toolpaths have to have a setup. So you're going to start with the setup, and it's going to default to this origin point in the middle of your piece, and that's okay for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave that there. I am going to go to the stock, and I am going to do a top offset of 0 and a side offset of 0. So we're going to machine with our tools. We're going to cut it down to its real dimension. So we're going to leave that where we have 7 and 12, and then that should be 5/8 of an inch. And we're going to go ahead and basically hit OK. So now what it knows is it knows where the origin is. It's going to be in the middle. And so when we put our board on the CNC router, we're going to set the middle to be there. All right, the next thing that we need to do is we need to actually create a toolpath. So I'm going to create, first and foremost, I want to go from, I'm going to create this cutout here. Actually, we'll do this simple. We'll do this pocket. The pockets are going to be relatively simple. So I'm going to do a 2D pocket. I'm going to select that face and that face. Now what I need to do is I'm going to click on the tool icon over here, and I'm going to hit select. You will not have any tools in here to pull from. So you are going to create a tool. So you're going to create a tool. You're going to do a flat end mill. You're going to name it whatever, like my tool. Okay. And then the cutter is a flat end mill. Number of flutes, we're not going to really worry about this right now. The diameter is 0.25. This is critical. So we have a diameter of 2 point. It's a 1/4 inch end mill. We hit accept. All right, and hit select. So now it is a tool that's a 1/4 inch. We don't have any coolant, so you can disable that. It doesn't really matter. And the feeds and speeds, where you can change how fast it goes, you're going to leave those as the default to begin with. So 40 inches per minute isn't very fast, but it's fine because we're just simulating it here. And you're going to have your own tool paths created for you. All right. So we have our geometry. We don't have to worry about the heights. Number of passes is important. So we're going to select multiple depths. I want my maximum roughing step down to be 1/8 of an inch. So I do 1/8 of an inch. And then my last piece is I don't need to lead in and I don't need to lead out. And I hit OK. And it should draw those paths for me now. So if I want to see what this is going to actually do, all right, I'm going to go to setup and hit simulate. And now when I hit run, it's going to show me what that looks like as it starts to sketch out that path. Now you see it hasn't done the cutout for the clock mechanics because we're going to do that a little bit differently. All right, so there's my simulation. That's looking good. I'm going to exit. The next thing I need to do is a different type of toolpath, which is a 2D contour. So I click 2D contour, and I click on the bottom part of my cutout. And so when I do this, it's the same process. I'm going to hit the same tool. All right. My geometry is the same. My height's the same. The passes are very important here, though, because I need to again tell it to do multiple depths. If I don't, it's going to try to cut the whole thing at one time, and that's just not going to work. So again, it's going to try to cut a 1/2 inch, which is too much. So I'm going to do 1 divided by 8. That's good. And then I'm going to not lead in, and I'm going to not lead out because it's just wood. It's very soft. And I'm going to hit OK. All right, and you can see that it's drawn that whole piece. Now, if we look closely, though, that piece is going to be floating. And so as we finish, that is going to kick out and potentially be problematic. So I'm going to edit this, right-click and edit. And then one thing that we are going to add are these things called tabs. So when we click tabs, it will leave some stock in there so that it will hold it in place, and we'll have to cut those out later. So I'm going to hit OK. It's going to generate again. And now what we can see is, right, it's going to leave some material to hold it in place so it doesn't have that thing fly loose. All right, we can look at our whole thing. So I'm going to simulate the whole thing. I can go to info, and I can see this is going to take 7 minutes to do this whole cut. So that's how much time it's going to actually take. If I changed my feed rate, obviously it would go faster. But for what we're doing, this is fine. So we have our toolpaths. Our next step would be to what's called post-process this. So that would actually bring it to the real machine. So depending on whether you're using the Techno or the ShopBot or the Shapeoko, it's going to be a different post-processor. But I'll show you what that looks like. So if I was to take this setup and go to post-process, I would have to select from the list of what there is. So I could open up and I could find the ones that I have. So I would be able to find those pieces. For you, for right now, it doesn't really matter because we're not going to post-process this. We're going to use the files that I private. It shows you what we do. But basically, you would name it as you want, and then you would hit post, and that would create a file. So I'll just show you what that looks like if I do time to clock ShopBot. And I'm going to just put that on the desktop so we can see it. That's been created right here. So this is that ShopBot file that I put on a flash drive, and I would bring to the CNC router to actually cut out and get set up. All right, that's it.